I'm just listening to the game drive, see what's going on. So the other 3 Nkuhuma ladies, the ones that are still together, so it probably means that young female managed to skedaddle away from the male, because there's the 2 lionesses, or actually maybe the lioness with cubs from Torchwood could be there as well. But they've caught a waterbuck sometime during the day, just to the east of our boundary. So they're probably not going to be around unless the Birmingham boys come in and take the lion's share. So we're going to check for this female who's possibly got a den in this drainage system up ahead over this hill here. Now, VM and I were walking in this system looking for her a couple of days ago, and stumbled upon a hippo sleeping under a bush, and Herbert was following leopard tracks in the same area this morning and stumbled on, which I'm pretty sure is the same hippo sleeping under a different bush. I'm sure these are those leopard tracks from this morning. This is where Mvula came from. Oh, the light's quite difficult at the moment. And he's just walked along the edge here. There we go. You can't really see them. Very difficult light, even if I throw some light onto it. But yeah, that's where he came from this morning. So I'm going to start slowing down and checking quite carefully now as we head over the ridge towards where that lioness was spotted in the middle of the day. So while we carefully check for any sign of that Nkuhuma lioness, fingers crossed we might be able to find the den and get the first view of those cubs. Let's go see James, who's going to be talking about armoured plating.
I am going to attempt to talk about armoured plating once I've turned my own voice off. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Still getting used to the technical difficulties of the tent. Now, here is a tortoise shell, obviously. Can you see the tortoise shell, Hoppy? Well done. Now, the interesting thing about a tortoise, of course, is the fact that these scoots indicate not so much its age, but the times of its life that it's had. So if I take out a piece of this grass and then use it as a pointer, because I'm so inefficient that I don't have a pointing pencil or something, what you can see is that these are periods of growth. Each ring, much like the ring on a tree, is a period of growth that the tortoise has experienced. Now, what is interesting to me is that it doesn't happen on a yearly basis like it does with a tree. It happens during times when nutrition is good, and sometimes when nutrition is bad, then the tortoise hardly grows at all. So you can see here, you see this particularly fat line there. You see that, Hoppy? That particularly fat line there, oh dear, is that fat line indicates that this tortoise had a very good time then, and it was perhaps, I don't know how old this thing is, but there was probably quite a lot of rain, and therefore quite a lot for the tortoise to eat, and so it grew quite rapidly. That was followed shortly thereafter by a particularly bad year, that last little bit there, where the tortoise hardly grew at all. Now, I think that's absolutely incredible. And we'll just have a quick look under the microscope as to exactly what these scoots look like. These are called scoots, by the way, and they come off. They're made largely, sorry, Jean-Andre. Let's do that first. There the scoots are. There we go. Isn't that amazing? So even in finer detail than what I was showing you, you can see the periods of good growth to the left-hand side of the screen, and then towards the center, very poor growth, and then back towards the right, also pretty poor growth. So a couple of rough years this tortoise has experienced. I think that's fantastic to see. All right, Jandri. And the last thing I just want to show you about this particular tortoise. And here, I'm going to actually break this off. This is a scoot. Okay, now when we talk about scoots, that's what we talk about. It's this kind of shell covering, which I think is quite nice. And Louise, you want to know, if you kept a tortoise as a pet, would these sort of scoots grow equally? Would the rings be more equal? I imagine they would. Yeah, probably a lot more equal than they would be here. We've got another one here which doesn't have, it's only got one scoot left on it. And this one, actually, quite interestingly, I think, seems to have had a slightly tougher life. Very, very thin lines of growth, very few fat lines of growth. So I imagine that were you to have a pet tortoise and were you to feed it consistently and not starve it too much or go away on holiday and forget to give it something to eat as when you were gone, it would probably have scoots that were exactly sort of symmetrical, if you like. And, I mean, a tortoise doesn't have to eat all the time because it's a reptile. It does not maintain its own body temperature. It's poikilothermic, which means that it must retrieve, or it must sort of derive its temperature, some buffalo. It must derive its temperature from the outside. And so they can go into a kind of state of dormancy, which they will do during the winter time. And then they won't grow at all. Hoppy, are you able to come out here briefly? Just want to show you some buffalo walking across. They've obviously now hidden themselves behind a bushel. But I think they're about... Did you see? There they are. They're just coming out there. And that's just to show, of course, that our little office here is in the wild. And it's so wonderful to be able to do what we're doing here and be inside and outside at the same time, of course. You don't have to be outside too much. Oh, there are baboons shouting. Andre, I'm not a baboon. Anyway, those are the buffalo. Where those lions went, we're not sure where the lionesses are. They could well be in that rather difficult block over there. And it's difficult because there are a lot of drainage lines and things in it. In fact, I think while you're next with Brent, I'm going to draw a diagram for you of exactly how the drainage line system works here. Okay, well, Brent is off the vehicle, so I'm going to just draw it for you while we're live. Come on, Hoppy. Let's just put up our easel. Let's just give Hoppy a bit of time to get back into the tent. Of course, he is virtually crippled. Is that okay for you? One day he's just going to reach round and bludgeon me from the other end of this. I wouldn't blame him. Alright, so here's the eastern edge of Djuma. East. Here's the northern boundary, which sort of goes in that direction like that. So I'm talking absolute rubbish. That's the western end of Djuma. There's the eastern end of Djuma. And there's the south. There we go. Now, the major drainage line that goes through Djuma, everybody, is called the Great Mulwati River, which flows once every 1,000 years or so. Probably not quite that infrequently, but it doesn't flow very often. Now, flowing into that and joining at where I'm sure you've heard us talk about Nyala roads south and north, somewhere around there is where this other drainage line joins. And that drainage line leads, of course, into Djuma Dam. Look at my dam, Jandre, you see that? Here's Djuma Pan. Here are the lodges. There's Vuyatela and there's Galago. And this is fed in turn by a drainage line that splits many times. And when I talk about that difficult block, what I mean is this area here. And we found many animals in there on foot. We've had some wonderful times in there on foot. And it's almost like a little wilderness block on Djuma where we don't see, there are no roads in there at all. And so it's very difficult to access in a vehicle. And it's just really nice to go in there and have a look. And I'll just give you a quick idea. The Mvubu Road runs like this. I'll indicate a road actually. We will get different coloured pens as we go along, but that's a road. That's Mvubu Road, and many of you will have heard us talk about Mvubu Road. Vuyatela Access Road goes off there like that to the entrance. This is of course not to scale because I have no sense of proportion, and that there is Gallagher Shortcut, and that would be Aubrey's Road there. And Gallagher Shortcut, of course, is where we had that wonderful hyena den with the scotia tree on it, and it was over here, round about there. And I'll just quickly draw the scotia tree, of course, which was very wonderful, under which, of course, were a few of these hyenas. This one is particularly being territorial. You can see its tail is up at the moment. Right. I think Alright, sorry about that. You know what else I'm going to show you? We were just waiting. Brenty's frantically trying to track something for you to see. Jamie's down. So let me draw you another diagram. It won't be quite as comedic as this one. But what I want to show you is where all the hyena dens are. And now where our beloved hyenas who have really irritatingly gone off to live at Simbambili. I know they'll be back at some stage. But I know, I'm hoping they're going to be back. What was that, Kirsten? You said we can go back to Brent. Okay. Well, let's do the hyenas first quickly, because I know that you're fascinated. It's like, it must be so amazing to watch someone so skilled draw. Is it, John Ray? Do you find it incredible to watch? Do you feel honoured?
Yes.
There we have Djuma again. Look how fast I'm doing it this time. There we have Simbambali. And there we have Arathusa. Okay, I'm just going to put Ara, and I'm going to put Sim, and we'll write the full Djuma there, of course. Right, Beefle's Hook. Okay, and T-Wood. B Hook. Wonderful. I like the mixture of high uppercase and lowercase letters. That's excellent. Okay, so we had here. I'm going to rub that out. We had the hyena den on Gallagher Shortcut over there. Well, the road does that. Then we had Aubrey's Road here, and we've got the main road that goes like that. Aubrey's Road den was right near the boundary of Biffle's Hook, and you can see there how close it is to the boundary of Simbambili. Sydney's Dam, which is obviously a large dam, is over there, and I'm just going to quickly draw you Djuma Dam, which of course is over here. Now, between these two dams, there are, and as they've got drier and drier, of course there's a little bit of water here, as they've got drier and drier, so the game paths have formed between the two, and both of these den sites, the Gallagher Shortcut one and the Aubrey's Road one, were basically on major game highways, and so the lions used to come knocking up between here and between Sydney's Dam looking for things, and I think that's why they've moved across here onto Simbambili, and they've built themselves another home there. And I'll just quickly draw you a cub. There we go. There is a hyena cub. I think that's D1 actually. D1, that's where they live now. Right, Zoe, thank you. You say you'd like to play Pictionary with me one day. You would almost certainly lose, and I'd have to apologise to you. Let's go across to Brent Leo Smith, who seems to have muffled his face with a very colourful scarf.
It's cold. So we did a quick little walk around where that lioness was last seen. Unfortunately, it looks like she hasn't come back towards Djuma, and we're going to go now check towards Sydney's waterhole. There might be something there. Yeah, well, there's lion tracks to the left, well spotted. Let's have a quick look. Going towards Sydney's. Oh, very interesting. So Viam's got some tracks there going down. As I said, this light, unfortunately, is really, there we go, we can see them quite clearly now. And those weren't there this morning. So definitely worth going to have a look. But I think we're going to check the water hole first. I'm just going to let these gentlemen pass. Now, maybe they might have moved down towards the water hole. Also, there's that big herd of buffalo around Zoe's Road. That looks like a male there. So it could be that one Birmingham we saw yesterday evening. And he crossed into the north. So he might have come back. Oh, he's come back. He just went for a scent mark. He's walking down the side of the road here. Fingers crossed, there's a lion. So before we went into Imvula, oh, look at that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? That tiny little hole in the grey, dreary sky. And this angelic light bursting through it. I think that deserves a photograph. I hope you guys are getting some screenshots of it. Absolutely stunning. The only bit of light we've seen this whole sunset safari. We're going to keep following these lion tracks. Hopefully we can follow them all the way to fruition. But we're going to go to James, who's got something at the Djuma waterhole camp.
There, everybody, is a diagram of what we're about to show you at the Djuma waterhole. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. There we go. Ah, this is unbelievable. There was a hippo right there, everyone, but there is no longer a hippo over there. So let us observe the hippopotamus that I have drawn for you. A number of amazing features, of course. The most important being that the nose of the hippopotamus, the eyes, and the ears are on the same plane, which means that if the hippo is lying under the water, let us pretend that that is the water's surface there, H2O, you can see that it's, while it's I'm sorry. While its head while its body is under the water here. So this is seriously, I mean, I'm genuinely trying to show you something here. Its nose, its eyes, and its ears are out of the water while it's standing on the river floor like this, and they normally are not swimming there, standing on the floor here. And of course also on the floor you might find a couple of fish and maybe a frog. Right, there we go. And a terrapin. I forgot about the terrapin. But the terrapin would be sitting over here. There we go. Basking in the sun. And that is how the life of the hippopotamus goes. I can but apologize for that. Brenty is trying desperately to find something in animal form out there. So let's have another serious biological discussion. And what we're going to look at now is a scorpion. Okay. I became slightly hysterical there, you may have noticed. Right, now what we have here, remember I described yesterday how most invertebrates have what we call well, all invertebrates, of course, without an internal skeleton, are unable to grow from within. So they've got to grow and then crawl out of their skins as they grow. And this unbelievable scorpion thing here, let me just revitalize the microscope. We'll have a look at it first without the microscope. There is an immature scorpion exoskeleton. So this is a particularly venomous scorpion, it was, or probably still is. They're quite long-lived. And this one came out of its exoskeleton a while back and just deposited this almost completely perfectly. It would have basically crawled out where the mouth is, crawled out the front and wandered off. Now, the reason I say it was venomous, of course, is because the pincers are so much smaller than the tail. So it's probably what we call a parabuthus. It's very difficult to tell what scorpion it is from looking at it. But let's go, what I'm going to try and do is just zoom into the sting here. There we go. Sorry, Hoppy, I'm right in your way there. How's that? Let me just, ooh, there we go. Look how, that sting there, look how sharp it is. Isn't that amazing? And it would go straight into my hand very quickly. Now just beneath the sort of sharp end of the wedge, if you like, or the thick end, the sharp end of the sting, is a poison gland. So that first sort of thick fat bit there that you can see is the gland in which the venom is kept, and that venom, of course, on a scorpion like this would cause some damage. And I think you'd probably find that it showed neurological or neurotoxic effects. There we go. And you can even see, astoundingly, some of those trichobothria. Those are those hairs. And those hairs there, of course, as Stefan mentioned the other day, when he found a living scorpion as opposed to just the shell of one, are very sensitive nerves. And they will be able to sense the slightest movement in the air, and that will make the stinger extremely accurate. So although the scorpion cannot see what it's stinging, those incredibly sensitive trichobothria will allow it to feel where the sting is moving through the air and be very accurate in putting that nasty, nasty sting into whatever happened to be causing it offense at the time. Let's go back across to Brent and find out what he has to tell you.
I thought I had a long distance visual of something big, possibly an elephant crossing the road, just very briefly. So I'm going to head down in that area. Now, Shadow and her cub were last also seen in this area, and they haven't been found again today. So we're just having a quick look here along the western edge of our traverse to see if we get any luck. It's quite chilly and getting chillier. I think it's nearly time for the warm gloves. I'm not even going with the not so warm gloves, going straight for the warm gloves this evening. What was that? That was a very funny looking little creature that just moved from the road. It could have been a duiker. It was a duiker. There we go. Just going to disappear. She's just behind this termite mound. Oh, little boy. Oh, don't run away, miss that. Keep still. There we go. They're so hard to often get because they do just disappear. A little male duiker. There we go. Now, interestingly enough, duikers are one of the only antelope species that has regularly been recorded eating meat, even hunting baby ground birds. So quite strange. Even the duiker we get here, which is the grey duiker or the Grimm's bush duiker. Now, the duiker species further... Oh, there, is that an elephant? I think I see an elephant. I can't see. There's something large. I'm hoping it's some ellies. Trying to see what go. Now, it's often very obvious that elephants are left or right tusks. I mean, they predominantly use one or the other. Paul's wondering, will antelope do the same? Well, no, not really, Paul. An antelope, those horns are almost there exclusively for fighting. They don't really use them for feeding too much, except for eland. I have seen eland use their horns to break branches to feed on them, but again, I don't think they would specifically choose a horn. Yay, Eddies! You've got to be very cautious around elephants in weather like this. They tend to be a lot more nervous and sometimes quite a bit more aggressive when there is strong winds about. This looks like quite a nice breeding herd, and their body language is great, nice and relaxed. And then we were just talking about left and right tusks, so she's right tusked. Oh, look at the little ones behind her. There we go. They look like they're up to mischief. They might be enjoying the cool weather for games. Not obviously as focused on feeding as the older ones, as they're relying almost exclusively on mother's milk at the moment. So yes, game time. Let's play, jump on each other. Isn't that cute? Oh, right, okay. Out of the way, adolescent. Oh. It's jumping right onto the other one's back. Unfortunately, let me just try and move. Oh, moving trees. Having a grand old time. They should move the way back towards us. There we go. Now, at that age, there's no dominance really in that display. It's just playing. What are you up to now, mister? Look at them. What are these two up to? They definitely look like they're about to play. Two little partners in crime. Now, when you have different aged elephants that want to play, quite often the older one will take a submissive stance, sort of try to get itself lower to entice the small individual to play with them. But in this case, they look very similar aged, so there's no need for that. Well, they are slowly moving into a thicket. And I said you've got to be extra careful with elephants in windy weather. They can be a little bit tempestuous. Oh, the babies are back there. Let me go forward slightly. There we go. Oh, there we go. Trouble one and trouble two. Both of them are a year old, under a year old. Quite mastered the use of the trunk yet. You can see how they are a little bit clumsy. Look at them, they're trying to climb and balance on top of that termite mound. It doesn't look like they've managed to master the control of their feet yet either. Little head shake. Oh, he's having a scratch. A scratch, an itchy spot on his foot. I wonder if that's an active termite mound and they're attracted by the heat more, not because they'd get cold, but more from a curiosity point of view. So they're going to move off into the thickets, and I said with this cold and windy weather, we're not going to push them at all. D. Bag's wondering, are young animals taught what to eat, or is it trial and error? Well, I think a lot of it is residual instinctual knowledge. So the same reason, or the same way that someone who's never seen a snake, knows nothing about snakes, even as a small child, is immediately scared of a snake. So I think that's some of that, a lot of that will probably be instinctual knowledge. And I think the stuff that tastes bad tastes really bad out, yeah? So it'll be interesting to know. I don't know if it's taught. I personally don't think so. I mean, they do learn in certain areas, whereas you must remember that man has spread lots of trees that are not supposed to be, or weren't indigenously occurring, like fruit trees. And elephants know that those taste good, and probably a sense of smell. Their acute sense of smell will also help them with that. Just one sub-adult left at the back in the thicket, still feeding. The rest are moving through up this little river system. Now, we've talked about how you've got to be a little bit more cautious of elephants when the wind is gusty and strong like this. But this herd has shown us no signs of any aggression. I'm just going to see if we can move a little bit to see if we can get a better view. But unfortunately, they are going to a very thick area. I think we've got one last little view through the gap there. So we'll take you into that last little view of a grey shape behind a bush. James wants to show you a little bit of what happens behind the scenes in the fireside chat setup.
Behind the fireside chat, a lot happens. Now, this is the third cameraman for the day. You'll notice the angle is slightly different. It's because David is back from leave. Welcome back, David.
Thank you, James.
It's wonderful to have you with us. Now, let us do a little about turn. Come outside, everybody. And you don't get to see fireside chat from this angle. Lurking in the shadows is Brian Joubert.
Hello.
There we go. And lurking also in the shadows is Jamie Patterson. She's preparing herself, putting a different earpiece on, getting herself ready, while Brent, of course, is alone in the wilderness. So just an idea of what goes on here. There's Eugene, of course. Hello, Eugene. Hello. There we go. Now, so we have to have two lights. If Hoppy Longstockings is doing things, we have to have about 70,000 lights there. He is out there trying to light the wilderness like some sort of ancient god. I'm not sure why he's doing that, but it will presumably have some sort of interesting effect during the course of the fireside chat. Then we're going to have two cameras today. One for wide and one for close. One will be operated by Brian, correctly, Brian?
Yes, that's true.
And the other by David, if I'm not mistaken.
Indeed.
David straight back into it. And of course there is the fire that will be blowing smoke straight into their faces. And so when you hear coughing and see shaking of the picture, it will be because the cameramen are being asphyxiated. We, of course, have insisted that we sit the other side today because, well, it's just more comfortable and less smoky. Now remember, the fireside chat today is going to be looking largely at cubs, so there will be a cuteness overload, and there will also, of course, be a discussion on, well, sorry, not a discussion, it will be on Facebook Live. So don't keep watching this stream, you must go across to the Facebook, I think it's the Safari Live Facebook page, and you'll be able to watch us there for the last 15 minutes of the drive. Let's head back across to Brent, find out what he's doing, and preparations will here continue.
We meandered probably another 100 meters and we've come across another herd of ellies, and they're a little bit more in the open, so let's have a look at them. Hello, elephants. See, there's a slightly more alert stance now, but now she's decided that we're not actually posing any threat to her, so back down to the more relaxed stance. Vim, you're being snuck up on behind you. Oh. There we go. There we go. Vim was being snuck up on. Well, and as soon as we realized, I think he was caught, he disappeared. Hello. There we go. There's another sneaky elephant. Little monsters. Yeah, quite a lot of communication and those trumpets. I'm just going to reverse slightly. Now, very important, let the vehicle run for a few seconds. If any of you are ever planning on doing a self-drive to the Kruger National Park, very important to understand just a little bit about elephant behavior. So it's always good when you switch, after you've switched off your car, you switch it on, let it run for a few seconds before you move. It gives the animals a chance to sort of get used to it. Also makes them realize that you're not a threat. So if you immediately start moving and making loud noises, and just think an engine revving could be misconstrued. Here we go. Hello, Mr. Naughty. Yes, you're very scary. Now again, in a herd that's not relaxed, a young one behaving like that can make the whole herd become very aggressive or uncomfortable. But if we go a little bit, look at this film, we're getting chased. So this is just games from the little ones. But see, as you go wider, you see there's a big female off to the left, and her tail is completely down, hanging loose, so she's not upset at all. This one, you can see how, there we go, that tail extended like that. In this circumstance is a bit of a game, but in other circumstances, that would, on a big elephant cow, that would be a warning sign for you to keep your distance. Now, if you're not sure, rather keep a little bit more distance. Of course, we often get very close to eddies, but we've all been doing this a long time, and I've spent a lot of time in the bush. And most of the time, elephants are not going to be aggressive or a problem towards you if you treat them with the right amount of respect and give them the space when they tell you to. And they obviously can't say, hey, you, please give me space, but they do that with their body language. And it's quite easy to tell. And if you're unsure, as I say, rather just give them a little bit of space. Hey, Naughty. Now, of course, I'm bundled up in all forms of warm things. And Mike's wondering, do elephants feel the cold? I'd say probably they do, but sorry, I saw something run across the road in the distance, but it was a warthog. I got very excited. It looked sort of the right sort of size for a predator. And there's also a lone wildebeest under the power lines there. That's very late for a warthog. They should be in bed by now. Otherwise, they might become dinner. I'm going to try and swing us around a bit again, these ellies. How's that going? I've been in the bush the majority of my life. I've been very, very lucky with the upbringing I've had, and the opportunities and things and experiences I've had from a very young age. And Zoe's asked me, at what age did I see my first elephant, and do I remember it? Well, I probably don't remember my first elephant sighting, but I do remember my first elephant on foot sighting. It's my earliest memory, strangely enough. It's my first memory. My family, my grandparents, and my parents and friends were up in northern Botswana on a big camping trip through the Okavango Delta. And they stopped at one of those magnificent big Mopani pans around in Moremi Game Reserve. And they stopped there to have a sundowner. And while they were having a sundowner, popped across the road, me being me, I managed to do a disappearing act. I was probably about 2 years old, or maybe just a little bit younger. I think I had my second birthday on that trip. And suddenly, when my father looked up, I was standing no more than about 4 or 5 meters, maybe even a bit closer, to a massive elephant bull. And I was talking to him, and he was just keeping dead still, and I was obviously speaking gibberish to him. My dad managed to walk up very, very carefully and pick me up and then walk away. And that Ellie bull shook his head at us a bit, and he didn't actually become aggressive. He was just sort of more shocked than anything. And I got a hiding, and the elephant bull got a big thank you from the rest of the family. That's my first memory as a child, and I suppose sort of destined to spend the rest of my life in the bush after that. So there we go, Zoe. That's my first elephant memory, and it's also my first memory. Oh, more ellies. There's quite a large group of them around here. Now, of course, elephants are the heaviest creature we have out here. Cheetah is wondering, can a termite mound take the weight of an elephant? Well, Cheetah, it all depends on the termite mound, but the big fungus-growing termite mounds most definitely can. They might break some of the chimneys and things like that, but the termite mound itself will be completely safe. I think maybe some of the top halves of the smaller black mound termites might not be strong enough, but definitely majority of the termite mounds here will be able to take the weight of an adult elephant bull, let alone a cow. It's so peaceful just sitting with the ellies as they feed. Now we're watching them. Been watching them feed quite a lot recently, and what's amazing me is that the diverse amount of species that the elephants are feeding off at the moment. We counted one young ellie bull. I think he ate 6 different tree species and a vine in the space of about 6 minutes. So with this drought, they're definitely going to expand their feeding habits, and in a lot of cases they'll feed on plants that, if they had a choice, if it had been a good rain year, they probably wouldn't feed on. Oh, that sounded like a massive tree being pushed, and it sounds like there's some more maybe towards Impala Plain, so they could be out in a slightly more open area. So let's go have a look. Our big Safari Live welcome to Khan in Toronto. And Khan's wondering, why do we turn off our engine whenever we stop to look at an animal? Well, firstly, Khan, it's just a lot more pleasant rather than having the noise of an engine going, to just enjoy the sounds of the bush around us. And that's pretty much the main reason we switch off our engines. It's to stop that distracting noise of the car, and so we can really experience that animal we're looking at. I can't wait for the day that we're going to have electric vehicles that are functional out in the bush, because we're going to be able to drive around so quietly. Now that does also come with a little bit of a problem. So, of course, in these vehicles, the elephants can hear us coming, so they sort of have an idea we're on our way. But if you're in a quiet electric vehicle, you might give them a fright. But I think they will get used to it, and I think they'll pick up on the sound of the tires. So of course, being out in the bush and going out twice a day, every day, is hard on our poor vehicles, and we've had a few vehicle problems of late, and James thinks he spotted something. There were male leopard tracks here yesterday, and Kathy's wanting just a quick update on what's happening with the vehicles. Of course, I'm out in the rust bucket, or rusty, and Jamie was out in the, I think they're calling it the boat at the moment, which is a quick modified vehicle, which is not our normal vehicle. Wendy has had a constant problem with her starter motor recently, and we haven't been able to diagnose and fix it properly down here, so we popped her on a trailer with a jigger and sent her off to Johannesburg, or to Pretoria, about 500 kilometers away, to Land Rover experts to try and fix her. And jigger's a bit more terminal, and we're not quite sure what happened, but there seems to be a problem with the engine itself. So they are also on the same trailer. They sent, hello little one. I love little elephants. So before I carry on with this little Ellie, so both Wendy and Jigger have gone to the doctor, and will hopefully be back this week at some point, and hopefully spick and span. Oh, look at him go! We're being stalked. Just a quick reminder, there's only an hour sunrise safari tomorrow, because we start our preparations for the Father's Day TV shows, and that'll be over next weekend. But so only 1 hour tomorrow morning, and also remember, Facebook will be where Fireside Chat is, on the Safari Live Facebook page. And remember, you don't actually have to be a member of Facebook to watch it. And just open up Facebook, type in Safari Live, and you should have, or you will have access to our page. Now, as these Ellies move across, I'm going to start making my way towards the fireside, and I'm going to be quite happy sitting next to the fire. It'll be nice and warm. I might actually climb into the fire. But it's also getting a bit dark, and some elephants don't like lights, so we're just going to leave them be. Hopefully we don't have too many elephant traffic jams on the way to Fireside Chat. We do have those from time to time. Unlike the big cities, our traffic jams even happen on a Sunday night. Now it's just getting dark enough now that we're going to pop out our spotlight and hope we can find a little nocturnal critter, like a bush baby I'm hoping for. Well, as you can see, I'm decked out in all my winter gear. Andrew from Florida, very sensible to live in Florida, Andrew. Very nice climate. I do approve of the Florida climate, nice and warm. Andrew's coming out in September to visit Kruger and is wondering, is it going to be chilly in the mornings and evenings? Andrew, it will be a little bit chilly, but not nearly to the degree it is now. You probably, I'm going to try to do the conversions for you. Early morning, probably be around 50 to 65 in that region, and getting upwards of 90, maybe even a little bit higher towards the end of September during the day. And then again in the evenings, it'll get a bit nippy towards the end, but no need to have 3-4 layers like we've got on at the moment. So you might have noticed a little impala scutter past me, and I turned my lights off. Now, we don't shine our spotlights on any of the diurnal animals. That's impala, zebra, giraffe, things like that. And we don't want to blind them. And it doesn't blind them for very long, but it could give a predator the potential chance of being able to catch them a little bit more easily. And we are here to observe, not to interfere in what happens. So we don't want to be on the predator or the prey's side. We just want to watch nature take place. Is on Facebook Live, on the Safari Live Facebook page. You can catch us there, talking about the ongoings of the week, what's been seen, what's new, what's cracking, and I'm sure good old Jamesy has got a little sing-along for you at the end. Fortunately, he's back, because you really don't want Jamie or I to sing. We talk quite a lot about, or we speculate is probably the best way to describe it, about what the different animal vocalizations mean. And Tony, old boy fish, would like to know, if I could talk to any animal out here, what would it be? Now, that's quite a difficult one. I know. Vem's like me. I want to answer that question, so I'll let Vem go first.
Turtle dove.
Vem would like to talk to the turtle dove. Why the turtle dove?
And I'll know all the secrets everywhere.
But they're very stupid. So they'll just probably go turtle dove, turtle dove, turtle dove, turtle dove. Now, I think I'd like to talk to the elephants. Now, they also see everything, but they also smell everything. So, oh no, I smelt a lion over there. I smelt a leopard. Oh, I chased a leopard over there. But also, I think an elephant would be a very interesting conversation. I think the turtle dove would probably be a bit like Dory from the Finding Nemo. Very forgetful. So even if they saw something, they're, oh, leopard. Oh, grass. Oh, bug. And Herbert's on the back here as well. Herbert, what animal would you like to talk to?
Drongo.
A fork-tailed drongo. Yeah. That's actually quite an interesting one. The toughest little bird in the bush. It attacks everyone and everything. I've even seen them dive bomb a leopard before. Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think elephants initially. Well, I close to 4 meters. If that would really go. Amazing. Boom, boom. way to there. There are quite a few people still out, but majority and other so much things that can possible to add aren't really found. So they have to put their eyes gum from a tree and chili application. It's quite a few different species. So